Hey guys, and welcome to episode 0 of our upcoming Skyrim modded Let's Play. I'm really excited to be jumping in and playing Skyrim again. It's been a good 6 to 8 months for me since I played this game myself, and obviously since starting the YouTube channel it's been way up there on the list of things to do for me. Now, I've completed Skyrim a lot more than a handful of times, let's put it that way. I think my gameplay time on the game, just since having it on the Xbox One, reads in at something like 100 days worth of gameplay time. So I've played this game a lot. You know, I've played it an awful lot. I own all of the Creation Club content, so that will be active during this playthrough as well. And what I just wanted to do today is run through my mod list real quick. I don't want it to be too long. There's going to be a couple of key mods that I'll point out here or there. For the most part, though, I'll just reference sections and talk a little bit about what the aim of this playthrough is. So to get us kicked off, I mean, Skyhood's just a heads-up display changer. Really great mod. I advise you check it out. It makes everything a lot more minimalistic. But other than that, this first group of mods that we have here, ERS Metallica, the Minimalistic Overhaul, Character Creation Overhaul, and Reading is Good. So these are a group of mods that I've put in that are really specific to the kind of game that I want to play. So what I'm aiming for is lore friendly as much as possible, but vanilla plus. It's similar systems to what we've all played so many times, but with little tweaks. That's the idea behind it. So ERS Metallica is for the smithing system. It just sort of changes what you can and can't do when you can and can't do it. So other than that, there's not a great deal to talk about. I advise you check all of these mods out if you want to know more. Of course, I will put a complete load order in the description of this video, so that you can check it out if you're following along. Enai Sion, I probably butchered that name, has a bunch of different mods all over Bethesda.net and all over the Nexus. This is a compilation put together by a porter of the minimalistic overhauls that he's recently released, he or she's recently released, including Morningstar, Evenstar, Truer, Valkyrie, Smilodon, Growl, and Sacrilege. So we're changing werewolf systems, vampire systems, perk systems, religion and belief is in there. The standing stones have been overhauled, and so have the races themselves and what they excel at and what they don't, which is further going to be expanded upon by the character creation overhaul. So this really brings back the idea of, you know, as it says there, the diverse races and genders, the birth signs and the traditional class system that you're familiar with from the likes of Morrowind and Oblivion. Now, I never played Morrowind myself, but in Oblivion, you chose a class when you first started the game, and that really dictated which skills started at higher levels, which skills started at lower levels, and how you would level up as a character. Now, this doesn't do it to the same degree, but what this would do is you will start with higher skill levels in those that you choose. You can either go for a preset class system or you can customize it yourself. And I believe they also rank up a little bit faster. So I'm really happy to be using this one, especially in conjunction with the overhaul above. The birth signs, you choose one of the standing stones from around Skyrim, and that will act as your birth sign. It'll give you a buff based on that. And the diverse race and genders really just means that, you know, depending on your race and gender, you're going to excel at different things. So one race might have significantly more health versus, you know, one of the other races there, a Nord versus a High Elf, for example. But then within the Nord class, the male-female also has a difference. It might be something like carry weight. It might be something like the female has a lot more magicka than health, and vice versa for the male. So what we're going to do this RNG based. So we're going to put all of the different races of Skyrim into a random number generator, and that's going to dictate what I start as, because I'm very indecisive, so that really helps me, and that's going to help make our character. I don't have any plans going forward. I just want to try and 100% the game the best I can, and I'll try and do it in as much of a lore friendly manner as I can, in a way that I feel makes sense, you know, depending on what the cards that we get dealt are. Next up, we have Reading is Good by Parapets. What this does is, instead of getting a single point for reading a skill book, it increases the rate at which you level that skill up. The more books you have, the more it stacks, and that's why I've put it in the game, because what we're really trying to do is encourage exploration the best that we can. Next up, we have no easy septums. Really quick and easy one to explain. It increases prices across the board. It makes it so that your buy and sell prices have been affected and you get less money as a result. It's harder to earn money by buying and selling things. And this lends itself to the whole survival aspect of the game that we're playing, where I'm really trying to encourage myself and make the game encourage me to be staying outside more often and be, you know, a little bit more tight-fisted with the money, which is why I've put no easy septums here. And next up we have a selection of quest alterations. Now, these particular quest alterations I've put in place for a couple of different reasons. One, mainly bug fixes, for the likes of the improved Companions questline, the improved college entry. It fixes a lot of the things that bugged me about joining those factions. You know, what people would see, how they would see it, how you'd enter things like that. The more reading quest for the Companions. We all know how short the Companions questline is. This one just bulks it out more. So you can see there, to conclude, the original requirements were 1, 1 and 3, but now they are 5, 5 and 4, and that's the quests between the main sections of the quest line for the Companions. So that's going to mean a lot more running around, a lot more licking boot, and then by then we'll be able to progress our rank in the Companions. All Thieves Guild jobs concurrently. It's a really simple mod, which I think hasn't been valued enough, to be honest. If you don't use it, you probably should. This allows you to get one of each of the different kinds of jobs from Delvin and Vex, to prevent you from having to just sort of take one of the 4 available at the time and then go out and do it and come back. We're running a survival here, and I don't want to have to keep going to Whiterun and Solitude and then all the way back to Riften and just to progress the quest line. So this is a really, really handy one for me. It means we can bank about 7 different jobs at the same time, and then we can tie that into our adventures from there. And then the final 2 here are actually Creation Club tweaks. So Knight of the North, I've only just come across this one. This is brand new to the load order as I record this. And I'm really happy that I took one little look for more quest alteration mods. So what Knight of the North does, if you're familiar with when the Creation Club first launched, there was a bundle of creations on the market, and they were actually really poorly introduced to the games. They have gotten better, but there's still a limitation to what they can do. Now, for the Knights of the Nine armor, what they did is they gave it to bandits, and you would just have to go kill the bandits and get it back. I feel like it's completely moronic to do that, given all the hoops that you had to jump through in Oblivion to go and get the Knights of the Nine armor. You had to find one piece somewhere and then go on this pilgrimage to be able to get them. And then on top of that, if you broke the law while you were wearing the armor, it stripped it from you. So why on earth would it stay on bandits? It just never made sense. So I'm really, really happy that I found this. It's a rework of that quest entirely. So this is going to, again, promote the adventuring for the things like artifacts, because they are powerful artifacts and I would like to have it in my armory, you know? So really happy to have that one on board. And likewise with Thwack, what this does is it changes the crossbow Creation Club so that it's part of the ancient technology quest that you get from the Dawn Guard, which more than likely we will be joining. Spoiler alert, I don't like being a vampire given the choice. I don't have anything against being a vampire as a character. However, when it comes to the split between Volkihar and Dawn Guard, the Dawn Guard is who I go for 9 times out of 10, unless I'm doing a very specifically evil character. I guess we'll have to see how the playthrough goes before I make any solid commitments, but we probably will end up with the Dawn Guard on that one. Okay, now next little section here is really about overhauling the enemies in Skyrim and the dungeons themselves as well. So you've got Skyrim revamped, you've got the loot and encounter overhaul, and also the complete enemy overhaul. We'll touch a little bit on both of them. So for loot and encounter overhaul, this is now my mainstay instead of Moral Loot Ultimate MLU, as you probably find out on the forums. Now, I used MLU for a really long time, the no artifact version, because I don't like adding excess things to the game. I feel like Skyrim's already completely saturated with items. If you just edit them a little, then it becomes a whole lot more worthy of a game in and of itself, without having, you know, 100 additional weapons here or there. But what this does, it just changes the sort of level requirements for weapons in a sense, when what level you would be before you start coming and finding them. And with that same terminology, it changes what you find inside of dungeons as well. So if you go to a Warlock's den, you're going to find anything within your level, and the level of that den specific to what a warlock would have. You know, warlocks dens yield soul gems, robes, enchanted jewelry, which actually comes in real handy for me, because if I'm doing something like a money run, those things are light, those things are valuable, and, you know, I'm going into a warlock den, I'll have to kit myself out to be able to take on a warlock at the end of the day. So this is going to be a really interesting addition. I've not used this, other than the test that I've done, I've not used this specifically, but what it does on paper, I'm really, really happy with. It does all the parts of Moral Loot that I wanted it to, without touching on the parts that I didn't like about Moral Loot too much. I'll not get into the specifics of that. I'll probably save some of that for when we're playing through the game a little. But next up we have the Skyrim Revamped Complete Enemy Overhaul. And similar to what the loot and encounter changes do, this redistributes what the enemies in Skyrim actually have available to them. So from perks to spells and weapons and things, changes their EI to be, you know, more specific to their play type. It's going to be a really interesting addition. I have played with it a little bit on the playthrough that I'd done about 8 months ago, and I just remember it making encounters so much harder. And that's what we want. It does overhaul bosses in the game too. Now I looked on the it doesn't mention it here, but I looked on the Nexus, and the description there does go through more in detail what it does to things like, you know, the Forsworn, bandits, so on and so forth. And then when it gets to bosses, you get an example of the dragon priests are pretty much a fixed level at about a level 100 each, so they are a monumental challenge now. It doesn't touch dragons, and I don't believe it touches werewolves. I couldn't see anything to do with werewolves on the Nexus. I went in the changelog as well. I didn't control F it, I probably should have, but I had a little skim through and it didn't say anything about werewolves. We haven't touched anything to do with werewolves specifically, other than the overhaul that comes in from Enei up the top there. So unsure about how werewolves will be in the game, but I'm excited to have this nonetheless. And then finally, as part of our sort of mini overhaul section there, mortal enemies. This is going to pair really well with the combat EI overhaul, and obviously Skyrim Revamped is changing the EI specifically of the enemies in question. What this is going to do is limit things like turning circles for characters. If someone's swinging a big old hefty two-handed sword at you, they're not going to pivot mid-movement and hit you as you run by them. It brings back things like kiting, the ability to do things like that. So I need it. I'm getting lost for words, really. I need this if I'm going to run a more realistic and more deadly experience for Skyrim. We need this sort of tool on our side. It does also change movement speeds though. It's not ideal. Because of it being survival, obviously the movement speed is going to get us from A to B better, but we should be using a horse anyway, or we should be using other means of travel if we need to get somewhere quickly. Okay, just before we get into the texture and mesh replaces for the environment and the cities, which I'm just going to skim through, you'll see it yourself. I could explain this as much as I like, but really the goal when it comes to the image of the Skyrim that I'm looking for is something that isn't so far-fetched, isn't such a big leap from vanilla, but everything is just upscaled. I feel that this is an amazing mod to have, alright? As you've seen on the channel, I play Darkest Dungeon, and in Darkest Dungeon you have trinkets, and those are things that you essentially carry with you, alright? This allows you to put a spell book on your hip. You can have two if you want to, and it's going to pair with another mod that we'll get to in a moment. It does put a crafting station in Dragon's Reach. I won't be crafting any. I'm trying to do this without any crafting at all, to be honest. Maybe there's a little bit of improvement here or there, but I don't want to have to create an item. I want to go out and find it. That's the idea of my play. And with equipable tomes, it puts some unique equipable tomes around the world as well. So you can find some with really fantastic properties. But it does also change the loot lists for various things so that you can start finding them around Skyrim too. So yeah, happy to have this one. It's going to pair well with. Before I act on that cliffhanger, I will actually just quickly run through. So we've got Organic Skyrim Landscapes, that's the North 5 edition. Skyrim Flora Overhaul Definitive Edition by Skyfall. Verdant, the Skyrim Grass plugin. Mari's Flora, which overhauls changes the appearance of sort of the plants rather than the grass. The landscape fixes and Henderheim landscape fix. I've got the CC, so I need that in there to help with that. Weather mod of choice, we are using Vivid Weathers. Noble Skyrim for the cities, Noble Skyrim for Dragon Ball DLC, some HD LODs there, Noble Skyrim for the interior furniture. And we have Amidian Bourne's Farmhouse, Amidian Bourne's Imperial Forts, Amidian Bourne's Caves and Mines, Venerable Nordic Templates, Venerable Nordic Temples, Skyrim Remastered, the Castles, and then we've got a patch for Noble. These are just all personal preference. You play Skyrim how you want to play your Skyrim. If you want it to look a particular way, mod it to look that way. If you like vanilla, play vanilla. If you want to mod it out and be a high fantasy, mod it out and play a high fantasy. I like a very middle ground. I don't like it to be too dark and mysterious looking, but I also don't like it too fantastical where it looks like a fairy's going to pop out the grass any second. I like it the way the way I've got it right now. I feel like this is the sweet spot for me. I'm super excited though to be able to play with JK's Skyrim for the first time ever. I've tested all of the cities. I've fast travelled to and from various cities, no crashes. The Xbox Series X does a fantastic job of being able to handle a modded game with JK's Skyrim in. You're probably familiar yourself if you played it on the Xbox One, but getting JK's to work where you didn't have to deal with a crash every third or fourth time you entered the city, if not the first, was a massive pain. You had to sacrifice an awful lot. Mesh replacers had to go. I mean, a lot of your modelists had to go, to be honest. You had to keep it very... and this isn't really a case of compatibility either. I'm well aware of what should be compatible and what shouldn't be, but it was a case of just general load. You had too much going on. The Xbox One would just crash and burn. I never had an Xbox One X, so I only had the base edition of the Xbox One. I know people had a bit more luck with the Series X and the Series S, but I never had that. And then on top of that, we've got Better Series all in one. This is the Better Docks and Better City Entrances, just combined together. They are by the same mod author anyway, I believe. But Better Docks just puts more workers in and around the dock areas, and Better City Entrances just sort of jazzes up the entrance to cities, and it really helps with the whole JK's Skyrim vibe. And what I will do is reorder and put JK's just below that, because I think the Whiterun doesn't quite overwrite properly. We're using ELFX for our internal and external lighting mods, so that's anything from the braziers and the lighting there, and the internal lights are coming from Enhanced Lights in FX. Personally, I would have enjoyed using the enhancer internally. It makes it a lot darker, makes it so that using a torch is necessary. But the test recordings I've done on Skyrim to prepare for this, it's actually coming out a lot darker on the recording than it is on the TV that I'm playing on. So I am having to myself increase the brightness so that it's a little more bright than I would want it to be personally, but that's how I need it to look for your sake. So yeah, I've had to take the hit on that one. The green ship fix, again, just check that one out if you're not familiar with the whole green ship up Solitude. Luminous Atronax is going to come in really handy for a couple of purposes. One, it makes sense. They are magical Atronax. I don't understand how fire wouldn't give off a glow. So this just adds a light flag to the Atronax, and it makes them give off a specific coloured light. But also, because we are doing survival and we're going to be travelling around, we're probably going to be travelling at night quite a bit as well. And for defensive purposes, you'll be able to see where they are nicely in the heat of battle. And also, you could use them when you're going through dungeons if you don't want to have to equip a torch in your hand. So, good one to have. And he had banners and shields and cathedral water for our water mod. So there you are, that's a run through of our graphical mods for the landscapes. We have some more graphical mods for weapons and armors here as well. So we've got a Medium-Born Book of Silence, variations for the armor and clothing, various different editions of this. There isn't all in one, but I didn't require it all because of me using a Medium-Born as a base. These are all the ones that I need to overwrite it with. So the likes of your guard armors, your Dawn Guard armors. I prefer these done by Sforzinder. That's why I've got all the iterations there. I've got a whole lot of texture replacers for the armors, and they're all pretty true to vanilla. They're just scrubbed up. So that's all you'll really see in the game. I'll just quickly jump through them so you can see there. And that's where we finish Midian Born's Blade of War 1K. Again, you can check that out in your own speed if you want. I'm not going to touch on them too much. But before I go any further, Reliquary of Myth. This is a key part of the load order. So this is one of the key mods I was referring to at the start. This overhauls the artifacts in the game. Because of the kind of game that I'm gunning for, artifacts are the goal. You know, that's going to be how we get a powerful character. It's going to be through the, you know, intelligent use of perks where we can, and good equipment. So having whatever we stumble across first, to be honest, if we get a random artifact that just gives us a good buff to our one-handed damage, we're probably going to lean towards enhancing that just to keep us up to a good level against enemies and while we're exploring. So it's going to help mold the character as we go through. It's very much scavenger-esque is what I'm aiming for, and I don't want to have to get into crafting too much. The only crafting that I want to do is no enchanting, no smithing really. Improving weapons and armor is sort of the caveat to that. I don't want to have to make my own stuff though. Potions, yes. You know, alchemy is something that we will be diving into. Good for money, and it's also good for, you know, poisons when you're doing playthroughs like this, for getting sort of decent buff potions when you're doing playthroughs like this. We've got the Dragon Priest edition, and also the edit for Sunder and Wraithguard, the Creation Club content that we've got. If you're wondering what Creation Club content I do have at this point, all of it. Go on to the Creation Club yourself, see what's available. I have all of it, and I probably will if they start releasing anymore. I don't think they will, to be honest. It's been a really long time, and they haven't said explicitly no that they won't release anymore, but they refuse to give, Bethesda, refuse to give any update on the Creation Club. They just say that thing, you know, they have been working on things, but there is still no release in sight. You know, they won't even comment on it. So I'm inclined to believe that if it does come, it'll be the last batch. If it doesn't come, I wouldn't be surprised. So again, we've got our weapon and armor changes there. Following on from the belt-worn books, this Warmonger Armory belt-worn Dragon Priest masks, they occupy the same slots as the books, so we're going to be able to have a back left and a back right. If we do ever get to the point of kicking ass and taking a Dragon Priest mask off them, I want to keep that around. They provide really big buffs with the item overhaul that I've used, and being able to just strap it to the belt instead of affecting the outfit that I've got on is a really big addition to me. So it's really just going to be all about the enchantments at that point, what sort of buffs that they give us. Quick disclaimer though, not all of them carry the changes from Reliquary of Myth. For the most part they do, but I believe that Mirak doesn't, Volsung doesn't, and Ragot doesn't. I think they're the three that I've had issues with. There might be another one, I'm unsure. But to be honest, it just means that you have to choose which one you're going to wear and which one you might put on the belt. If we ever get to this point, we're just going to be stupidly overpowered anyway, more than likely. At least for the most of the game. So yeah, that's a good one to have for me. On top of that, we've got Connoric's accoutrements. Now, I don't really put quest additions into my modded playthroughs. I don't really play any quest mods. The reason I've done this is because it's essentially an armory, and it's an armory that I feel makes sense. I love the Dragon Priest masks. I love that you've got to go to the ends of the earth to find the flipping things. But I also appreciate what this mod does by giving you a matching armor set, and it's very similar and akin to Mirak's robes, but armored variations of that. They look fantastic. They look like they should be in the base game, and it's a mainstay in my modded load order every time, because who doesn't want to be kitted out and crown themselves Connoric at the end of the game? I'll wait. Yeah, just it's my aim. That's what I want to do. Modded playthrough, all the Dragon Priest masks, yes please. Then we've got the Prades Mirak. It's just an upscale of the, just a retexturing of the outfit. It looks really nice, really nice and shiny metals. And we've got some more of the textures. I think these might no longer be. These just happened to be in my load order when I picked Skyrim up again about a week ago to start working on this, and they were just a texture replacer for the restoration staff and the conjuration staff. I can't imagine them being stolen. Please correct me if I'm wrong if you want to check up on that. Because the rest of the work by the same porter is here. If not the original mod author, Brady does have an account on Bethesda, I believe. So yeah, Ancient Falmer Armor, all the rest of them. Quickly skip down. And now on artifacts, I'll just quickly touch on this one. So we all know the frustration. You go through a dungeon quest, someone says, hey, take my family's knife. It's been with us for generations. It will keep you safe. It's a fucking iron dagger. Has a nice name, but it's an iron dagger. I'm not alone in being frustrated by that, obviously, because Artifacts fixes that. Artifacts is a texture and mesh replacer for all of the almost artifacts. It does touch on a couple of actual artifacts, which I could go without, because I like to keep, if it already has a unique appearance in any way, shape or form, I like to keep it the way it is for the most part, especially the shape of it. If the colours are tweaked and enhanced, like the Blade of War, for example, I'm fine with that, but the Blade of War still looks like the Blade of War. And the only two that it does that to is the Dawnguard Rune Axe and the Dawnguard Rune Hammer. It drastically changes the way they look. It's not worse, it's better, it's just, that's my own obsession. I like to keep things as vanilla as possible. And they did have their own little enchanted glow to them. They did have that own little unique glow. But yeah, they're a lot more unique now. It touches on loads of things. So I recommend that you check it out. That's the Reliquary of Myth patch, so we'll skip by that one. So as we've already enhanced the various enemies around Skyrim, now we move on to dragons. Now dragons are obviously the most pressing enemy in Skyrim. It's the whole point. That's why we all played it in the first place. We all seen that trailer drop for Skyrim. Dragon drops down, starts screaming at you, roaring at you, whatever the fuck you want to call it. If that didn't give you butterflies and make you want to stand in line for Skyrim, I don't know what ever will. But dragons are shit, and what Splendor does is it just gives more variations of the vanilla dragons. You can see there, increases the number of enemy dragons to 784 from the original 14 variants in the game. So you can see there, that's 56 model texture combos, which is a huge amount, times 2 breath types, times 7 levels of strength. Really diversifies them, so I'm really happy to have that one in there. And I'm pairing it with Bellyache's Tougher Dragons, and what this does is this mod increases the health of all dragons by 20% and includes new textures for dragons by Bellyache. That includes Alduin, Paarthurnax and Odahviing, so they've got a little bit of a paint job. They look a little bit different, but they're 20% more health. They were already sponges to begin with, but because we've increased the effectiveness of other enemies in Skyrim, if we didn't at least do the same to dragons, then dragons would be a joke. Everything else would be hard, dragons would be a joke. So I had to do it. And the texture replace is nice anyway. Talking of dragons, ever since I activated this, I realised what, the vanilla game was missing. When you're fighting that first, the first dragon that Alduin summons, Salakhania, he immediately starts trash talking you when you fight. You realise just how intelligent dragons are. Obviously, whenever you encounter the most part of the named dragons in the game, they're all talking shit to you the whole time. But then the other dragons don't. So what this does is it just spreads that around. Yeah, you get talking dragons. That's it, really. Run for Your Lives is an EI overhaul that takes effect when members of the public are exposed to vampires or, dragons or, any NPCs that are there to really go and commit some violent acts against the population. They'll leg it indoors, Guards, members of the companions, vigilance of Stendarr, and the player's followers and teammates won't run, they'll stand and fight. Alright, farm animals will not run either because they're stupid. That includes your horse. How dare you? Only I can call my horse stupid because he is. So yeah, that's a little bit of a nice EI overhaul to have. Harder lockpicking, exactly what it says. Lockpicking, it didn't matter whether you were level 5 or level 100. It's fucking useless. It still is useless. I mean, I'm sure the perk tree that Enai's put up there is a lot more tasty, and we probably will take a little look at it and see if there's anything worth getting. I don't know all the perks off the top of my head. I'm going to learn this the same as you guys. But yeah, harder lockpicking, it just narrows the sweet spot. So it makes it, you know, you're going to either have to have a lot more lockpicks to get through, or just be an awful lot better at it. Or put some perks in, you know. Be a fucking normal Skyrim person for once. Put some perks in, you lazy fuck. Right, anyway, shout. This is a new one to me. But again, it's one of those that just feel like it makes sense. You're the Dragonborn. You can channel dragon shouts once every 5 minutes. You went through training with the Greybeards. You learned how to channel a dragon's essence through your mouth once every 5 minutes. Doesn't make fucking sense, right? And ultimately, you know, if your combat's going on for more than 5 minutes, then I feel like something's wrong, you know? And to be able to use 2 very mediocre shouts in that time, pointless. So, this is a shout overhaul. Alters nearly every shout by either increasing its damage, increasing its duration, or adding new unique effects, and it reduces the cooldown for all shouts. Paired with a perk that I know exists in Valkyrie, our shouts might actually do some damage. So, super happy to have this one on board. No glow, no sound. Surely I can't be alone. Alright. When you have an enchanted weapon, when it glows, it just irritates me. It doesn't, like, remind me, oh shit, yeah, this is enchanted. Like, I didn't need reminding. What I needed it to do was shut up, so when I pull it from the hilt, it doesn't make a fucking noise other than the thunk. I don't need it glowing and humming and things like that, you know. I know where I had to go to get the Mace of Morlag Bal. I don't need to be reminded every time I pull it out, unless you have that mod. Oh, I've just hit the I've just hit the pop filter. Unless you have that mod where Morlag Bal continues to speak to you when you use his artifact. That's dope as fuck. Wish I had it. I don't even know if it's on Bethesda.net. I might take a look, but that's awesome. So yeah, no glow, no sound. Weapons don't glow, and they don't emit a sound. Better creature loot. This is because of the whole survivability of what we're doing. It irritates me no end when you would, you know, you'd kill a deer and you might get antlers. You might not get antlers, but it's got antlers on its head. So why wouldn't I get antlers? Did I forget how to chop their antlers off between the last one that I killed 30 seconds ago? Makes no sense. Alright, so this just readdresses what you get through all of the different creature drops. Now, I can see here, actually, while we're on, hey, a little bit of we're going to have to move this further up, because this does include dragon priests and dragons. And we do have something that changes dragon priest drops, which would be Connoric's accoutrements. I'm going to go ahead and move this higher. Can we get much higher? So high. Oh. God. Voice of an angel. Okay, let's just fucking put it up the top. Let everything else overwrite the creatures changed there. I'll have to have a double check with Skyrim revamped. See if that changes the loot of animals. Where are we? Encounter zones. Dungeons. No. That's about right. Yeah, we should be fine. Cool. Leave that one there. Where were we then? A little bit of a fix up on the job. Okay, so we got shout, no glow, no sound, and then we're just getting to the arse end of the load order. It's nothing really important. The quality world map. I added this in real late on. I don't really need the map to look better, but I do like to be able to see the roads. So this was added, and you know, it looks nice. No, it's really great work. You know, I'm not putting it down at all. It's just I personally don't need my map to look any different. But seeing the roads is, you know, definitely one that I need. It's a fix. Torchlight expanded, does exactly as it says. I added this again because of the darkness that I experience when recording. I could see distance, but the recording can't, so I added this one in, and it does help. Less trees and less grass. Exactly that. This reduces the amount of trees that spawn. It's completely random. Doesn't affect towns. This reduces the density of the grass. only slightly. I believe the default density is 20, and this goes to 40, and the higher the number, the less dense it is. Again, it's just a little bit of a performance tweak, nothing special. Disable the snow shader. This is the whole reflective snow shit, does my head in. I always keep this one in here. And disable snow grass. Again, when you deal with sort of city overhauls and they change the ground type in certain places, and then you start getting things like grass pop up where it didn't before. This is more evident for me in Windhelm. So disable the snow grass fixes that for me. Guard Torch Remover is the last mod on our list. I only added this one in because I'm running ELFX, too many light sources historically. I'm not sure if it's the same on the Xbox Series X, but historically would cause flickering. So I added this one in because I mean, the guards don't really need to carry torches all that much. You know, the city's fucking lit. So, I mean, outside the walls, it would have been cool if there was that distinction, but it's not. So yeah, that's our last mod, and that is the mod list. So guys, I hope you appreciate what I'm sort of going for from this survival completionist build. I'm just making the game a little bit more difficult than it was already. Actually, probably a lot more difficult than it was already. But at the same time, I'm giving us new tools to play with. You know, new perks, little overhauls that tweak our abilities. And what I'd like to try and turn the game into as much as I can is where it becomes less about my skill and more about the character's skill, which is why I find exploration to be so key. You find things that are useful, you use them, you scavenge, and you just overall become a more natural character for your Skyrim playthrough, instead of, you know, right off the bat going out and trying to get your one-handed skill up to level 100. So yeah, I hope you guys like this. I will be recording episode 1 of this probably by the end of today. They will get uploaded on the same day. But that's enough from me for now. My name is Brian. This is Botched Up Games. Remember, if you can't beat them, botch them. Take care now.